Hello, fellow classmates. My name is Emily Self. I chose to do my presentation over John Milton because after doing a little research over him, I found him to be a pretty interesting guy. John Milton was born on December the 9th, 1608, in London to a scrivener and composer named John Milton, whom he would later be named after. His mother's name was Sarah, and he was baptized at All Hallows Church. He attended St. Paul's School, Christ College, and the University of Cambridge. He was a very educated man. Milton was supposed to become a clergyman in the Church of England, but decided against doing that due to dissatisfaction with the Anglican clergy and because of his poetic interest. As Milton grew older, he lived in Horton, Buckinghamshire, which is where he began to prepare for his poetic career. Milton entered a program of reading of the Latin and Greek classics and ecclesiastical and political history. Later, he toured France and Italy. There, he met many influential writers and philosophers. When he returned, he settled in London and wrote a series of social, religious, and political tracts. Milton lived during a time of turmoil in England. During this time, the English Civil War between parliamentarians and royalists was taking place. Parliamentarians wanted to limit the king's power and wanted Parliament to play a more important role in government, while the royalists supported the king. Of course, Milton chose a side. He supported the parliamentary cause during the Civil War. Milton was later appointed Foreign Secretary by the government of the Commonwealth. Milton felt that the king was supposed to serve the people and the Parliament. Unfortunately for Milton, he was totally blind by 1652, but continued his literary work by having someone write it for him. During the Restoration period, Charles II and his party was placed back on the throne. Of course, Charles II would not want people who were against the king having power. So Milton was punished for his support of Parliament by a fine and short imprisonment. Milton lived in seclusion during the last years of his life, and he died on November 8, 1674. He was buried beside his father near the altar in St. Giles, Cripplegate. Milton was married 3 times, and he had 3 children that survived. His first wife, Mary Powell, left him but came back. Milton was a very gifted writer and inspired many through his body of work. He wrote poems at Cambridge and also wrote prose tracts and pamphlets. During the turbulent times of the Civil War, his writing attacked bishops and supported the English Reformation. He hoped his pamphlets would inspire debate. For example, his most famous prose work, the Areopagitica, opposed censorship of the press, which was something that not all people agreed with during that time. Also, he defended the execution of the king, King Charles I, due to his abuse of power. However, Milton is probably best known for his poem Paradise Lost. Milton wrote Paradise Lost after he was punished for his part in supporting the parliamentarians. I wonder if he felt that his own paradise of a better English government had been lost. However, it was inspired by the biblical story of Genesis. The gist of Paradise Lost is this: the devils wanted revenge for their fall from heaven, so Satan suggested that they corrupt man as their revenge. This leads Adam and Eve to have to come to terms with their fall from grace. Milton's characters are very complex. For example, Eve seems to want independence while Adam is curious. Paradise Lost is composed of long sentences and unrhymed verse, which is what we call iambic pentameter today. This style of writing was quickly adopted by others. Milton's artistic interests varied. During the Civil War, he focused on political interests. He chose to write about debatable issues, such as the death of King Charles I and divorce. The divorce issue arose when his first wife left him. Obviously, it must have made him question whether or not people should stay married if they aren't happy. In John Milton's The Doctrine and Discipline of Divorce, he argues that marriage is both an intellectual and physical companionship. He argued that divorce should be allowed if a couple was incompatible. He also wrote about cosmic themes and religion. After all, Paradise Lost was inspired by a biblical story. Religious idealism also is a part of Paradise Lost. Milton says at the beginning of the poem that he'll defend God's way and that everything is part of a bigger plan that could end happily. John Milton lived a very interesting life. His writings were influenced by many of his own life events and things that were taking place during this time. It seems to me that his works of literature influenced the people of his time as well as us now. His writings have lasted centuries and carry profound meanings that people of any time can connect with. He truly is one of the most talented writers in history.